there. 2 Timothy chapter 3, flip over there. Again, Paul talking to Timothy about last days. And this is what's in 2 Timothy chapter 3. And this is the piece of this where Paul identifies some of the same things that Jesus identified, that you'll be turned over. He said, in those days, you're going to be turned over to those who don't, if they hate you, it's because they hate me, right? So Paul says here, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 says, realize this. In the last days, difficult times will come. Men and women will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revelers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness, although they have denied its power. He says, avoid such people as these. For among them are those who enter in households and captivate weak women, weighed down with sins, led by various impulses. And you think about these pastors of these churches and the moral compromise that's gone on in all churches. It's not just mega churches. It's from top to bottom. It's big to little. It's every denomination, right? And that kind of thing's been happening. Verse 7, always learning, never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so these men also opposed truth. Men of depraved mind, rejected in regard to the faith. They will not make further progress, for their folly will be obvious to all, and it has become obvious to all. Those who are not in the church go, I don't want to have anything to do with the church because of that kind of thing. Those who are in the church and are of the faith go, we don't want to have anything to do with that either, you know. Although there are those who are kind of covering for some of these people, you know, and it's like, that's not right either. Verse 10. Now you followed my teaching, conduct, purpose, faith, patience, love, perseverance, persecutions and sufferings, such as happened to me at Antioch, Iconium, and Lystra. What persecutions I endured, and out of them, all of them, the Lord rescued me. Indeed, verse 12, all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. But evil men and impostors will proceed from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. You, however, continue in the things you have learned and become convinced of, knowing from whom you have learned them, and that from childhood you have known the sacred writings, which are able to give you the wisdom that leads to salvation through faith, which is in Christ Jesus. All Scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the man or the person of God may be adequate, equipped for every good work. I mean, it's so much of that is like, that's where we live. We live right there.
Yeah.
That's our time.
The first part of that is the news every day.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to tell the truth here. I've had to kind of watch the news this week. I realized Monday I was in this perpetual state of being aggravated. It's like, okay, I gotta stop.
Yeah.
I gotta stop. So
I don't have a TV. I don't want a TV.
there you go. That may be the next best option.
Well, it's hard. You know, it's hard to stay away from it, all the negativity.
Oh.
But I gotta tell you about New Orleans. It is just the most Satan-filled.
Really?
It's 10 times worse than it was when I was there in
What are you
2000.
talking about?
Wow.
It was wall-to-wall voodoo and Satan and
Where's this?
New Orleans.
Oh,
And we went there for the wedding, and we left the next day. I took the train; it was awesome. But I spoke to my brother-in-law on our way out the door to go to the reception. He goes, "I'm getting out of here as soon as I can." He goes, "Don't you feel what I'm feeling?" And I'm like, "It's awful.
Yeah.
It's a horrible vibration of evil."
Makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck.
It does. It does. As soon as you get off the train, it was like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Wow.
It was and to just walk down the street, it's just,
Do the wedding couple, are they living down here?
no, it was a destination.
Oh, destination.
They live in Houston. But,
Make it Hawaii next time.
yeah, no kidding, Jamaica, come on. I don't know if Jamaica's any better, but why New Orleans, I don't know.
Wow.
Because it was horrible, and it's everywhere.
Mm.
And, you know, just the whole atmosphere is poisoned.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting.
And almost no one, we, you know, just sitting around talking, we were all feeling the same thing. You know, we're so glad we live in the sticks. You know, 'cause I don't know if other big cities are quite that bad, but man, that is bad. I don't go to big cities on purpose.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because one of the girls there said, "You go to Chicago. Have you been to Chicago?" I'm like, No, I don't go to Chicago. She's
Right.
like, it's the same thing. It's just evil.
And I think that bears witness to the fact that if that kind of thing is rising up in these cities,
Yeah.
where there's chaos and evil and wickedness and that kind of
and
thing.
filth,
Yeah.
and of course they've got it worse because of all the voodoo stuff that, you know, people go, oh, we don't really believe that. Well, then what are you doing it?
Right. Right. And there is a rise, that article, there's a rise of witchcraft
Well,
going on, you know.
there were a lot of that. And on the streets just full of tarot card readers and, and palmistry and, you know,
Wow.
you know, that's a first. I mean, it wasn't like that 20 years ago
Right.
when I was there. And it's just, you know, I didn't go anywhere at night, of course. I give out about 8 p.m. So. But it, you know, and it's noisy all night long. All night long. I could not sleep. And I was on the 14th floor.
Oh my.
Wow.
And the sirens, and it's just so noisy.
Interesting. But yeah, I mean, this is what we see, you know, and this is what's different. It all plays in together. Flip over to 2 Timothy chapter 4. Part of the thing that this, and then we'll get to Matthew 24, but part of the thing that is interesting is this aspect of people who are in the church and out of the church, you know, or in the church and partially in the church. If you're out of the church, you're out, right? But there's a little bit, you know, kind of hanging on them, a little bit in, a little bit out kind of thing. 2 Timothy 4, 1-5, it says, I solemnly charge you in the presence of God and of Jesus Christ, who is the judge of the living and the dead, and by his appearing and his kingdom, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with great patience and instruction, for the time will come, verse 3, when they will not endure sound doctrine,
Oh boy.
but wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teachers in accordance to their own desires, and will turn away their ears from the truth, and will turn aside to myths. But you, be sober in all things, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. But wanting to have their ears tickled. And again, all I can speak for is the church in North America over the last 25 years. You know, this is kind of where this has gone, where the preaching of God is love, and understand He is love. But like I was trying to point out on Sunday morning, He is not only love. He is holy, He is righteous, He is just, He has a wrath. But all of that, His love and the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross doesn't make any difference if it's not for His holiness and all these other things, right? Because He died, He had to die because of His holiness, because we would never be holy if there wasn't something that would have bridged the gap, that paid the price for our sinfulness. And Jesus paid the price because we could not be holy. He says, be ye holy because I am holy. Well, the only way we can be holy and the only way we can be righteous is through Jesus Christ. We can't be that on our own. We could never be that on our own. So wanting to have their ears tickled is a lot of this. God is love, but that's all you hear. And again, if that's the only page of the Bible you get, that's fine. But some of this is by choice, not because it's the only page of the Bible you actually have. If that makes sense. And what happens is they won't endure sound doctrine. And I kind of feel like that's maybe what has happened to a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree.
They don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, which is why you have so many preachers who are told in seminary, oh, don't worry about Revelation.
Yeah.
Don't worry about Revelation.
Generation Z definitely doesn't want to hear it.
Right. The other thing I pulled out of that I thought is important. It says, with great patience and instruction, preach the word, be ready in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with great patience and instruction. And I think for Generation Z, particularly with Generation Z, we have to include in the message of this is the end time, we have to include the message of hope. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is still light in darkness, and we're to be the light in the darkness. And while you live in a time, Generation Z person, you live in a time that might be different than what it was when I was your age, there is still hope in Jesus Christ. But the perspective now is off of the here and now, right? And it's a little more from an eternal standpoint. And I think that may become more so as we move forward. You really don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow or not. So I think to bring hope into the discussion is very important, particularly with the younger generation. So thoughts on that?
Maybe it's because of old age, I don't know, but this part where it says, with great patience, I'm having trouble. Really.
It takes more discipline to be patient now, doesn't it?
It
It
does.
does. And energy. It does. It takes a lot of energy to be
Yep.
patient.
Yep. And that is that because I don't want to be this short-tempered person, which is why I caught myself the other day going, okay, well, I am angry all the time. I cannot do this.
Yes.
I don't want to do this.
Right.
So.
I've told Jane several times when we had the news on, you want to turn on the music?
Happy music.
Yeah, happy music.
There's even some of that I can't listen to anymore.
What I'm talking about is just put you to sleep. Soothing.
All right, let's go to Matthew 24. And Mike, I'm going to have you read 32 through 44 when we get ready.
Okay.
Talking about the days of Noah. Okay? Talking about the days of Noah. So, Jesus says that the last days, verse 37, will be just like the days of Noah. I had not caught that until this morning. I'm going, oh, that says just like. So I'm using the New American Standard Translation. For the coming of the Son of Man will be just like the days of Noah. Okay. I got a renewed interest in this. Mm-hmm. So I want to read this from what Jesus said. Then we're going to look at Noah's time from what it said in Genesis. And then I want to read you an article about paganism and witchcraft. And this was the dark reality of Halloween. So we'll read this, we'll talk about it, and then I'll connect the dots here on all this. So Mike, if you would read Matthew 24, 32 through 44.
24, 32 through 44?
Yes.
Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken, and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken, and the other left. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come.
Go on down to 44.
Okay. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him.
All right, let me ask you a question. How many Christians do you know that you would say they're absolutely ready if Jesus comes tonight? That have the mindset, I'm on guard.
I know a lot more people that have already passed that were definitely that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell by how peacefully they went.
Yeah.
And how willingly they went.
Right?
I always thought my grandmother was my mom's mom. She
Yeah.
was super good person. But when she was lying and dying, she said to my mom, she said, I don't know if I've been good enough.
Oh.
Oh my.
Oh.
So that tells me that maybe she didn't know, you know, because being good, that doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that just tells me she was always working for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
was always ready for it. She was just always questioning herself.
Yeah.
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 And I think that's human nature.
It is.
Yeah.
When my mother-in-law had her major heart attack, it was awful. I saw the EKG. It was like, oh, here we go. And she was 98. And the doctor said, I'm going to send you to Carl. We're going to do a cardiac cath. And you may have open heart. And she's like, no, we're not. She goes, well, you'll be dead in 48 hours. And she's like, that's okay.
Mm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And the doctor looked at me and she said, I don't think she understands what I'm saying. And I'm like, no, you don't understand what she's saying.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was just, the whole room was just so peaceful. And she lived another year. But
Isn't that
that's
something?
how much doctors know.
Right.
When
Right.
mom passed away, she wasn't worried about herself. She wasn't worried about dad,
Oh, always.
who was in the nursing home, you know. And we stood around her bed and sang songs when she passed.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's an excellent,
That's
that's a good
awesome.
memory, isn't it?
Gospel, you know.
That's a good memory.
That's awesome. Of people that are living right now, who do you know that you would say they're absolutely ready? And who do you know? You don't have to identify them out loud, but who do you know that you go, I don't think they're ready for the thief to break into their house. If he comes, I don't think they're thinking about it. I don't think they're watching for it. I don't think they're on guard.
Right.
Did you say Mike?
No, I
No.
said right.
He said right.
That's true. And as things get more turmoil, the economy or whatever, that's more in their thoughts and
Oh, yeah.
takes over.
Yeah.
Than thinking about the Lord and his coming back. It's
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, go
My
ahead.
sister and I had this conversation not very long ago. My older sister. And she's like, I think most of the time I feel like I'm ready to go. But I'm concerned about which way I go. And I think that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's normal, you know. The fact that you're going to die, and everybody knows they're going to die. Everyone's
Mhm.
going to die. But it is, and you don't get to choose how you die peacefully in your sleep.
Right.
But
Right.
she goes, I'm pretty sure 100% that I'm going to heaven.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll wait for me at the door.
There you
I'll
go.
be right there.
Let me read the parallel of Matthew 24. It's Luke 17, if you want to turn to 17, because Jesus not only mentions Noah, he mentions Lot. So we're going to want to read this, and then we want to look at those days. So what was the days of Noah like? What were the days of Lot like? And why did Jesus compare the end times to that? Okay, we want to take a look at that. So we're going to go Luke 17. Luke 17. And we'll start at verse 22. And remember, the disciples are asking because they're expecting him to set up shop,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and about the end of days and when all this is going to come about. So that he's answering their question. Verse 22, he said to the disciples, the days will come when you will long to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and you will not see it. Then you will say, look there, look here. Do not go away and do not run after them. For just like the lightning, when it flashes out of one part of the sky, shines to the other part of the sky, so will the Son of Man be in his day. He will come, and that day will come like a flash of lightning. It's going to pop. It's going to be there. Verse 25, but first he must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. And just as it happened in the days of Noah, so it will be also in the days of the Son of Man. They were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, and they were being given in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. It was the same as happened in the days of Lot. They were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. Verse 29. But on the day that Lot went out from Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just the same on the day as on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, the one who is on the housetop and whose goods are in the house must not go down to take them out. And likewise, the one who is in the field must not turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever seeks to keep his life will lose it. Whoever seeks to keep his life will lose it. And whoever loses his life will preserve it. I tell you, on that night there will be two in bed. One will be taken, the other left. There will be two women grinding in the same place. One will be taken, the other left. Two men in the field. One will be taken, the other will be left. Verse 36. So, Jesus is using the days of Noah, the days of Lot, as a parallel to say, that's what it's going to be like in the last day when I come back.
I see one verse here I missed before, which I think relates to Noah. It says, but first he must suffer many things, and he, not you. He, who's he there?
So, Jesus talking about himself.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
That makes a whole difference. Never mind.
that's all right. It's all right. So, Noah's day, let's talk about Noah first. In Noah's day, Genesis chapter 6, if you want to turn there. In Noah's day, there were, by any account, how you want to take a look at it, these generations from Adam down to Noah, and by the time they got there, if Eve, for example, had children for approximately those periods of hundreds of years, Adam and Eve could have had 250 some odd children, maybe more than that. Just depends. You don't know if they were twins, right? So with that, from there, let's just, and I took and rounded it off. If you went with 250, and then over those next 7 generations, those thousands of years between Adam and Noah, by the time those children had children times 250, if you just rounded that off and kind of did that, which is, there's some assumptions there. You might be assuming a little bit low, you might be assuming a little bit high, but somewhere in there, it's kind of where you're at. You would get to somewhere around 1 billion people on the planet or more, depending on Noah's day.
lot of them actually knew Adam and Eve
Yes,
because of the longevity.
exactly.
You know, if you look at that,
Adam was still alive when Noah's father was born.
yeah.
Mhm.
So as far as the word of mouth or how things happen coming, it was firsthand.
Yep, exactly, exactly. So, why did God put all that genealogy stuff in there? That's why, so we could go, hey, look at that. Um, how many people got on the ark?
5 and their wife. Well,
6,
Noah's wife, 3 sons, and their wives.
Right,
Yeah.
8.
3 sons.
Yep, so there's 8 total out of 1 billion people on the planet.
Unless you watch a movie and there was someone else got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave it to Hollywood,
Yeah.
right?
And the last days will be like the days of Noah.
So what does that mean? I mean, if and Jesus in Matthew said we'll be just like the days of Noah. Okay, so you got tons of people on the planet, and you've got Noah who's identified as a righteous person. Okay, so what does that say?
To me, I've thought about that before, and I jump in and correct me if you think I'm wrong. That's fine. That's why I think for the rapture, things are going to get pretty rough before that happens. If that, you know, we're definitely living in the last days. So when will Jesus come back? When he's been rejected.
Hmm.
And you know, and you can't. Well, forget what First Timothy said now. My recall is terrible. See, but yeah, that's why I think that this is going to really get rough before the rapture, and things. People are just going to totally reject it. Scoffers will say, you know, where's the sign of his coming?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah. I could go on there.
No, I'm with you. Anybody else?
And because look at how many that were saved in the ark,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole world, like you said, 1 billion people. Just
Even if it was just 100,000.
yes.
All right, I mark it back down. And go, Kegel, you're way off. There was maybe 100,000 people. Okay, there was still only 8 that got on.
Look at the ratio there. My goodness. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're saying you think there won't be many Christians to get on the ark?
I'm gonna give you something to think about. Go ahead and run with this one. I'm gonna give you something else to think about.
I was just curious.
Well,
You think we're
when
not
the
gonna
rapture
be
happens,
raptured? Yeah.
I
You think we're not gonna
I've
be
gone down
raptured
that road before, and I've even
tribulation?
kind of mentioned it
No.
before, but that's possible. Now that isn't the church getting the church will never be. Satan can't harm the church,
Correct.
Correct.
but can things get smaller as far as those who are to be raptured? I think possibly so.
What is the defining point of being a Christian?
Yeah,
Accepting
people.
Jesus as your Savior
And
and following His
acts exactly right.
And what?
Is following him.
and following.
Yes, following
It's
him.
following him. So, and Jesus to that point says, deny yourself, take up your cross, and
Yes.
follow me
Yes.
to Calvary.
If
to
this-
wherever I go.
I see.
Right?
I see.
That's what the living life was, the light,
Yep.
everything happened on that cross.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So, if you define yourself as a Christian, that means you are following Christ. If things were to get rough,
What would you do?
you know, is that going to thin the herd, as they
Oh,
say?
yeah, you bet.
I have a question about Luke, and it says, the days of Noah, it rained, it flooded, Noah sealed the door up.
Yeah.
And there's 8 of them in there.
Mm-hmm.
God sealed it.
Right. Even so it will be on the day when the Son of Man is revealed. But on the day that Lot went out, it rained fire and brimstone,
Mm-hmm.
and only Lot and his family made it away
Right.
from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that on the day Son of Man is revealed, there's not gonna be a lot of people. There's not. Because why did he emphasize the day of Noah? The day of Noah, 8 people made it. With Sodom, I don't know how many.
6.
Yeah.
Lot and his wife. No, Lot and his wife and the 2 daughters.
Okay.
There's 4.
Right.
The sons-in-law laughed at Lot
Yeah.
and stayed behind.
Right.
But there would have only been 6 had they
So-
gone.
And it says in the end times, there will be a I don't know how this, a falling away, a great falling away. It's like in the movie when the guy said, you preach it the way you should preach it. Next Sunday, you're only going to have half as many people.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
And that's reality.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it certainly
is
is.
the-
But doesn't that sound like a majority of people are not going with you?
let me answer it this way. The Spirit explicitly says in the latter times, some will fall away from the faith,
Right.
paying attention to deceitful spirits and doctrines of demons.
Right.
So, look at 29, Luke 17:29. On the day that Lot went out from Sodom, okay, that's when destruction came.
Right.
When does destruction happen after the rapture? Right? It's coming after the destruction happens. The tribulation starts after the rapture. So, in a way, you can say, well, Lot and his family, while they were flawed, Lot was certainly flawed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
But the New Testament, and Peter calls him a righteous man. What he saw and what he endured, that righteous man, right? So while he was flawed, he was still raptured out. But the herd was certainly thinned.
Right.
Because the sons-in-law had chance. But because Lot's testimony was compromised, they laughed at him. Because while he was righteous, he wasn't living. Because they wouldn't have laughed at him
Yeah.
had he been what Noah, and I'm sure they laughed at Noah too. You crazy old man, what are you doing? So,
Yeah.
in that sense, in one sense, we are Noah in our generation. Every Christian who is a follower of Jesus Christ is Noah. Jesus is the ark.
Yes.
But we are Noah because Noah preached all that time, it says in the New Testament. Noah preached while he was building. And what was he preaching? You better get on. Time is short. God's going to destroy. Are you going to get on? And they laughed. I'm sure they laughed at him. Look at that crazy old man. But Noah's righteousness, Noah found favor with God because of his righteousness, and he didn't care what the crowd thought. Right? So 2 things happened here. Noah was preserved, his family was preserved because they took God seriously. But out of 1 billion people, and I think it was 1 billion people, based on that, there was only 8 of them. And the woke mob were laughing at him, trying to cancel him, I'm sure. And Lot, even in that, so Carla, going back to your question, or your thought here a little bit, Lot was flawed, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He did not fully do what Abraham did, and that was take God completely at his word and be fully righteous, you know. So one of the things about, no, I'm not going to get into this tonight. But one of the things about Sodom and Gomorrah, we'll talk about them next week. You know, he loved Sodom and Gomorrah because he was making money. He was living large in that town. Yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of like living in New Orleans.
Mm.
That would be Lot
Oh.
and Sodom and Gomorrah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine if you were a righteous
I don't
person?
think you can, wow, you'd have to be a special person to live in that and not be
Compromised.
compromised.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
It's hard to live now. and
it
not
is
be
hard to
compromised.
live now. I mean, I like looking at news and stuff on my phone and the pictures that come on there, good
Oh,
grief.
yeah.
Those are just the ads
I
trying to
know.
get you to go
Oh,
someplace.
yeah.
You know.
You wouldn't believe what you see walking
And
down the
did
street
you ever
in
notice-
daylight.
Did you ever notice the little X and the play is really close together?
Yeah.
You try to
Oh,
exit
yeah.
and get it out and all of a sudden the thing's playing.
I
It's
just,
just
yeah,
grief.
yeah.
That's why my phone doesn't do anything. It says hello.
You're like like not having a TV.
Yeah.
Might be something to that phone.
There might be something to that. I may go to a flip.
Anybody else? Because I want to take you to Genesis 6. I want to talk about. So what? We want to go expansive here. What did Noah's day look like? If it's going to be exactly like it was in the days of Noah, exactly like it was in the days of Noah, what exactly were the days of Noah? So let's go to Genesis chapter 6.
What verse?
We're going to read 1 through 8. Mike, if you want to read 1 through 8, if you got that.
Sure.
Save my voice here a little bit.
When men began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children with them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great men's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind, whom I have created, from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord.
All right. So think New Orleans and look at verse 5. The Lord saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Yeah.
Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Depravity is apparently knows no boundaries, you know. Look at where our society is devolving to with self-identification, with
Pronouns.
yeah, exactly, pronouns, and yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, if we could drop back to 1 Timothy
Yeah.
chapter 4, it said, they're speaking lies and hypocrisy, and you've said on a number of occasions that their conscience, and the scripture was saying in that verse, their consciences were seared.
Yes.
I listened to a clip today. Joe Biden passed or signed an executive order for student loan. He actually believes that that's a piece of legislation.
Yeah.
That went through Congress, and you know,
Passed by all 54 states.
all 54 states.
Sometimes he thinks it's 57.
Does he? I hadn't heard that.
So does Obama, though. He said 57. But yeah, he doesn't know what he thinks. He just knows what he's told. He's in the mid to late stage of Alzheimer's.
But what is the old line? And I think the communists use this line. You tell a lie long enough and it becomes the truth.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And so
The unfortunate thing about that is that Trump has listens to that same phrase.
Yeah, that's true.
And so to that though, go to the self-identification, go to some of this other stuff that we're teaching kids is okay to, you know, from that standpoint.
I think that's part of why we've seen such a popularity in things like TikTok and Twitter,
Oh my.
and is because of that self-gratification.
Yes.
And granted, some people are making a lot of money off of it.
Yeah.
But it still focuses back on self.
Listen, there's so much that is evil on social media because it'll tell you a partial truth. It'll tell you you deserve it, right?
Oh, yeah,
And you
yeah.
even see it on the commercial. I've told you this, my disdain for those commercials. Like, get the services you deserve. And it's like, I just hate that. I hate it on a variety of levels. But they're playing to these people who, I deserve that, right? And it's so there's a whole lot of things, and I'm going to get off task if I go on there. But yeah, to that point, it's you tell it long enough, or if you make up your own truth long enough, you're not going to be able to disseminate between what is a truth and what is a lie, because Satan's going to deceive, so much to it's like it's so ingrained in you, you don't know where truth ends and where the lie begins.
And unfortunately, a lot of the American people are so, how do I put it, uninformed,
Oh, yeah, ignorant.
that they believe what a person in a high position says, no matter if it's right or wrong.
Right.
Oh, this guy said it, so it must be right.
Yeah.
And
Doctrine of demon is,
Yeah,
quite
they
frankly,
don't- they
if
don't-
it's not the gospel, it's a doctrine of demon. So
and I think a lot of people have just become lazy in checking stories and looking at the background and believing everything that comes across their Facebook page.
Yes.
yeah.
And not realizing that, let me put it this way. Remember when we were kids, someone of our friends or we all had that 8-ball.
Yeah,
Oh,
magic
yeah.
8-ball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's just like the internet. If you turn it over enough, you'll get the answer you want.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, what? I think it's even worse than Facebook. It's our news media.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's a big part of it.
sure.
Yeah.
And they used to be dependable and
Right.
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
To a degree.
The thing that I dislike about the news media is that everything has to be sensationalized,
Exactly.
and that's both sides.
Right.
That's whether you're at Fox or if you're at
That's
Oh,
CNN.
yeah.
Yeah.
They want
Right.
to sensationalize. You have to just
Because,
all you have to do is look at the headlines.
Yeah.
Because they write the headlines to try and entice you to read the article.
and
Oh, yeah.
sometimes the article has nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they don't expect people to actually read it.
Clickbait.
Well, but see, they mark success, especially on online reading, about how much time you spend with looking at that article.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's not just, flip through it or you open it up and you're gone. They actually measure how much time you spend looking through that.
I never
That
thought
piece of-
about that.
Oh,
I did not
yeah.
know
I'll
that.
bet that's true.
Everything's there's data on everything. So
Plus the fact that bad news draws more attention.
Oh yeah, it's the old adage, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
Unless it's a
Yeah.
puppy, and that's where I go all the time. Oh, it's a horse or a puppy.
Yeah.
all right, let me. I'm gonna grab this back here because I want to read an article.
Sorry.
No, totally. No, it's totally good. Verse 5 said, "The Lord saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thought of his heart was evil continually." So remember, Jesus said it's going to be just like the days of Noah, and that's what the days of Noah were like. So humanity had moved so far away from God that demonic influence had infiltrated mankind. This is where we live. Demonic influence had infiltrated, and humans then became possessed by demons, right? Because they weren't looking for God. That opens the door for Satan. And so there were humans who were demonically possessed, and those people cohabitated, which opened up these babies.
So is that what the Nephilim is?
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know what
Yeah.
Nephilim is.
Those were demonically possessed humans.
Okay.
Because demons cannot procreate.
Giants.
Yeah. But think of, how people who've been jacked up on drugs can be superhuman in their strength. Well,
Oh,
think
yeah.
about a demonized person.
Right.
Like the demon that Jesus met who they couldn't keep chains on him.
Right.
So if you think about that in that time, this was a whole, there were billions of people on the earth, and there were only 8 that got on the boat. And the reason there was only 8 that got on the boat, because humanity had become this, okay? To the point where God said, there's no way. They're not coming back. They can't come back. There's no way they're coming back. And Noah preached for 120 years to try to get them back. Think about that. Yeah.
And when that takes over, you can see how there would be evil in their hearts continually.
Yeah.
Just, it's gone.
Yep. So
Because-
God waited, I'm sure, just because the character of God is, I'm going to wait as long as I can. I'm waiting
Right.
for everybody to come
Yeah.
back, is what Peter said. How come he's taking so long? This must not be true. No, it's true. He's just waiting. He's waiting for people to come back. And when he realizes they're not coming.
That way you can't say, you didn't wait long enough. There was somebody else going to get saved. No, there was not.
Yeah.
Because God knows the intentions and the heart of everybody.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, just as Noah was ridiculed and hassled, and when in his 120 years, look how faithful Christians today are being, ridiculed and threatened and having, Bibles tore out of their hands. And,
Mhm.
So it really is the days of Noah when you look at it from that perspective. And, if Noah was 120 years, one of the last really great revivals was the Azusa Street Mission.
Absolutely.
And that's
About
almost
120 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh.
Yep. 1905.
What was the name of it?
The Azusa Street Mission Revival in California.
I've heard of it.
I think it started about 1912, 1913. But
Was it?
I think for some reason 1920 sticks in my head as one of the big years.
And from that, Pentecostals and Nazarenes came out. The holiness movement came out of that revival. And then, of course, they split, separated themselves from each other, so to speak. But that's where that movement came from. That Holy Spirit movement came from there. So, but yeah, that was probably that. And then, Mike, there was a lesser, but the Jesus movement of the late 60s, which has been now 50 plus years.
And we
so.
saw, that was the time we started seeing a lot of the individuals coming on campuses and standing on the street corners preaching the gospel and, telling people, hey, the time is near. The time is near.
Yes.
And
So in this increasingly obvious infiltration of demonic stuff in the movies that are on, the TV shows that are on, I don't even like the promos, the commercials that are on about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, then anything that you can find easily on social media. I throw this in for submitted for your approval, as Rod Serling would say in the Twilight Zone. So this
that's
is
what it feels like sometimes.
it does feel
Really?
that way.
No good.
Paganism and witchcraft: the dark reality of Halloween. This is from CBN News on Sunday. Millions of people will be celebrating Halloween on Monday, October 31st, including many Christians. In fact, Halloween is the second largest commercial holiday in America, typically grossing around $10 billion in sales, according to the National Retail Federation. Some parents will dress up their children in costumes ranging from princesses to goblins and go trick-or-treating. However, many do not realize there is a darker reality to the celebration, and it is steeped in paganism and witchcraft. Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, originated in the ancient Celtic festival Samhain, which means end of summer. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the souls of the dead were supposed to revisit their homes, and many people believe that ghosts, witches, goblins, black cats, fairies, and demons roamed the earth. So, in order to protect their families and livestock during the coming dark winter months, the Celts invoked the help of their gods with animal sacrifices. However, the holiday took a different turn when Christians arrived on the scene and began celebrating All Souls Day. That was a time for Christians to commemorate and pray for the souls of believers who had died. In the Western Christian practice, the celebration began at a prayer service on the evening of October 31st and ended on November 2nd. During that time, the poor would visit the houses of wealthier families to receive little pastries called soul cakes in exchange for a promise to pray for the family's dead relatives. Eventually, the festivities evolved into people dressing up and singing songs in exchange for treats. CBN News' Charlene Aaron interviewed a former Satanist, John Ramirez, who warned that Christians should have nothing to do with practicing pagan customs. It is the most diabolical, demonic holiday, he said. He explains Christians should not be deceived when celebrating Halloween alternatives. Why would you pick a day, October 31st, and then you're going to call it Harvest? You're trunk or treat. You're going to dress people up. You're going to bring candy. What's the difference between that and Halloween, he asked. And then that's where it ends. The article ends. There's a video you can watch after
What
that.
interests me about Halloween is that the way Halloween started in Ireland, and the Irish immigrants brought it to the U.S. and shared their custom, your traditional customs with the U.S. But now it's worldwide.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not just the U.S. It's worldwide. And it amazes me that, something like Halloween would become worldwide when we know that in some areas Christmas is not worldwide.
Right.
So there's something more to it.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So
I mean,
it's-
that makes total sense.
I mean, and the kids did that. I did it growing up. Our kids did it when they were growing up and stuff. So, but the point of that is that this former Satanist is going, y'all don't even know what you're messing with
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
And
But if the intent is not there,
right.
and I mean, not everybody dresses up as witches and goblins. I had about 30, and there was only one witch,
Yeah.
and she was a good witch. She had to tell you. But it's like I don't know that it's probably not harmless, but I don't think it's horrible.
I don't think it's detrimental, but I think the thing that is of interest is the rise of satanic
Right.
Yes.
stuff. And I go back to this book because this opened my eyes, as hard as it was to read. This opened my eyes to what's really going on. So when we see self-identification, when we see all of the stuff that we've considered normal that has been turned on its head, this is where this is coming from. It's a satanic movement. It's got a face, a political face, so that it's covering, because Satan hides behind everything. But ultimately, and I wrote this down, Satan's purpose has always been to oppose God's plan. Boom.
Oh, absolutely.
Boom. Because once this gets said enough, they're coming after your Bible, and they're coming after the churches, and they're coming after Christian people. Because they do it everywhere communism is tried, So in Noah's time, there was this huge rise of demonic activity, and it separated mankind from God, and that's what's happening. The purpose is to separate people from religion or separate people from the church, and ultimately separate
I
from
think
God.
that's very evident when you think back, say 30 years ago. There seemed to be a distinct time frame for Halloween, Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden they start overlapping. They start,
It's meshed.
and to the point where Thanksgiving's just totally been left out in the cold. You build up to Halloween spills over because now they're promoting the whole Mexican thing, Day of the Dead, which is November
Right.
1st and 2nd. And then, let's go to Christmas now. It's
I came
November
up out of
3rd.
my chair Monday night. There's 2 Christmas commercials on, 2 of them. I said, there's the pumpkin's still burning. It's like, what is happening? So, anyway, yeah, that's exactly right. All right, so I'm gonna break it right there because that's Noah's time. Jesus said, just like Noah's time. Next week, I want to look at Sodom and Gomorrah because there's some similarities there. Because Sodom and Gomorrah, in addition to being a horrible, wicked place, it was also a place of abundance and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some very similar things in our time.
New York, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But that was just
just the U.S. in general.
Yeah.
Just the U.S. in general. And the movement we see people do the things they do because of the dollar.
oh,
And I think that fits perfectly with Sodom and Gomorrah, just like Lot was there for the money.
yep,
He was making a lot of money.
yep,
We see a lot of people want to come and enjoy the American way. Why? Because of the dollar.
Yeah.
Because of the American money.